Gary, hello.
Hi Leo, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Good. Gary, thanks for the time you spent on this article. Quite comprehensive. Two key points that I deduced from this. One is it's not all doom and gloom. And number two, which I thought was interesting, is that most people will rely on the media as their source entirely for what's happening at the moment. But as an investment officer, you can't do that. You have to dig deeper.
You certainly can't rely on general sources of information. You have to lift the hood and look under the bonnet, as we say. And in the world of data, it's critical to find the correct sources. And the reason for that, it's anybody watching this, and you don't have to be talking about asset management, but if you're going to make major decisions, you want to make those decisions based on accurate information. And I think that there has been quite a lot of misinformation surrounding the whole issue of COVID-19. And one of the points I'd make in that article is that if anybody really wants to check out what the data is in the UK, the best source by far is the ONS, the UK Office for National Statistics, because that is run by statisticians, and they have got a very, very good reputation. So if in doubt, go to the ONS.
As you have done with all your charts. I wonder if you could take me through these.
Oh, sure. I think that it's very important to try and understand from an investment point of view what is going on within the economy. And at the moment, what's happening within the economy is driven by what is happening with this pandemic. So understanding the nature of the pandemic helps because it gives you a better idea of what society is going to have to do to deal with the unwelcome effects of the coronavirus. And the thing you see from that data is that unlike the 1918 flu pandemic, coronavirus is really very, very nasty for older people. For younger people, it really isn't that life-threatening. Under 45-year-olds, it's just around 1% of total deaths are in that age group. But as you see from that chart, the older you are, the less you want to contract COVID-19, because if you're older, it's life-threatening. And that's just the nature of this particular pandemic. The 1918 Spanish flu pandemic attacked all age groups. This is something that's different with that pandemic of 100 years ago.
Yes, and looking at chart A, you've got your all deaths 5-year average. That's not painting a picture of horror to me. You know, it's on a descent. It's climbed a little bit on week 39. But all this says to me, you know, it will pass. Yeah, the pandemic, you say they last around 18 months. You've got Patrick Vallance with his 50,000 prediction of infections. We're looking a little over half that at the moment. So we've got a long way to go in a week or so for that to be accurate. And then you've got a more positive outlook from the Bank of England.
Well, you could not have had a bigger contrast in September of heads of different departments in governments. The Chief Scientific Officer, Patrick Vallance, making extrapolating an assumed trend and suggesting that we'll be up to 50,000 infections a day if this, by the way, not a prediction, happens. And then just a little earlier, you had, and then on the 30th, a little later, you had Andy Haldane, Chief Economist at the Bank of England, really getting upbeat with what's happened with the economy and saying that the one thing that we don't want in the economy is fear itself. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got one senior government official scaring the population. On the other hand, you're saying you've got another senior government official saying we shouldn't be scared. So it is very contradictory sometimes. And I would say that a government we have a prime minister that's meant to be a communication expert, but there's not much evidence of that in September.
Sure. Gary, thanks. Two more questions, if I may. I'd like to look a little closer to home. So how's life in the investment team and analysing the markets at the moment? And finally, what are your views on the current commentary that, second lockdown, Christmas coming? What do you see over the next few months ahead?
So on the team, we just go about our business as normal, and that is thorough analysis, ensuring you've got broad diversification. Our job is to make sure that people's capital is there to support them for the rest of their life. And that means whilst we look for decent positions and we look for good stocks to buy at reasonable prices, we don't speculate. We're not taking punts. And it's very important to try and hold stocks and positions that will survive a crisis. And generally, that has worked out extremely well for us through 2020. As far as we go with going forward, the economy has bounced back hugely from its sort of March-April low point. It's up over 20% since its bottom. So far, it looks like a V-shaped recovery. And as Haldane from the Bank of England said, any economist in this country would have taken that outcome when we were at rock bottom in April. So that's really good. For that reason, the government will not want to lock the economy down again. It will do all it can to avoid that, but it will come under incredible pressure under the mantra of protect the NHS to do just that. And they need to balance it out. But as I said in that article, you're getting the number of deaths per day up for COVID, and that's incredibly sad. So we're up to 50, 70 a day at the moment. But cancer and coronary disease kill around 450 each per day. They are huge killers. You've got to get this in perspective, and you've got to understand we are getting better at dealing with coronavirus. So I think that a full lockdown of the type we had in the spring is unlikely. And I also think what you've seen in the bounce back in the economy is this country's and others' remarkable resilience to overcome extreme difficulties, get back on with life and come through them stronger. And I think that's what you will see over the next year or two. Doesn't mean that as an investment team, we haven't got to be very, very careful with what we're buying. And we are being, and we're looking, in depth at everything that we add to the portfolio. But I do think overall, the situation is more, I side a lot more with Andy Haldane, an economist, than I do with the Chief Scientific Officer, Patrick Vallance, who I think probably needs a bit of a refresher on data analysis.
Gary, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any questions, please, as usual, let us know and we'll put them to the right people. Gary, thanks very much. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Leo. Bye.
Bye now.